In my last video, I said this. Not to mention, Tails is smart and even smarter than Eggman. And there were quite a few comments that disagreed with what I had to say, but in all fairness, I didn't really give any explanation of this. I just kinda dropped it point blank and moved on. So together, let's get to the bottom of this. Let's find out if I was right or if I was wrong. Is Tails smarter than Dr. Eggman? Stay tuned to find out the answer. Now the first thing you're probably thinking is, well, what are the IQs of both Tails and Dr. Eggman? That can just show us instantly how, smart the individuals actually are, and that gives us a good metric for comparison. But I'm gonna disagree with you right there, because I'm gonna be honest, as good as a 300 IQ is that Dr. Eggman has, I think we put way too much stock into this. After doing some actually really quick research, an IQ test is just a measure of a person's reasoning ability. In short, it's supposed to gauge how well someone can use information and logic to answer questions or make predictions. Now, I'm not going to pretend like the 300 IQ doesn't matter. It does, and it does help Eggman in this argument. I did do some research to find out what Tails' IQ was too, and it says that Tails' IQ is a 300, but I couldn't find anyone giving any canonical proof to support this. I did find this though. In the game Sonic Battle, Tails has a move called IQ 400 Attack. Does this imply that Tails has a 400 IQ? I don't know, but I don't really care. Instead, what I want to look at is their accolades, the things they're able to create, the things they're able to come up with, and the things that really just help them out in the heat of battle. Firstly, let's look at Dr. Eggman, who is an insanely talented individual who can construct not only an entire army, but create a sentient being basically out of nothing. The amount of machines, vehicles, and weaponry this guy has created basically on his own is astronomically high. And even if he had machines help him build some of this stuff, I think that's even more impressive to even make machines in the first place to help you build something even greater. On several different occasions, he's been able to create something that not only rivals the strength of Sonic the Hedgehog, but also the speed of Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, I'm not going to get into the technicalities of just how fast Sonic the Hedgehog is, because frankly, I'm not smart enough to figure that out. But even still, the fact that he's able to do something like that is just insane. Only a small handful of characters can actually testify to being as fast as Sonic the Hedgehog, and only a few of them are actually created by an Eggman, which is really funny to think about. But even looking aside from Eggman's creations, we need to talk about this dude's mind. Eggman is always thinking of things. And these things might just include the records of ancient civilizations or how to unleash a beast upon the world that could literally split it in half. Frankly, the reason why Eggman is always one step ahead from Sonic and company is because he always knows more than they do, at least initially anyway. Now, the reason I say initially is because there are two things that really get in Eggman's way. The reason why I don't think he's as smart as he likes to think he is. And that's one, his ego, and two, his childlike tendencies. Basically, every single time Eggman unleashes some sort of powerful being onto the world in hopes of destroying Sonic, he ends up getting betrayed almost immediately afterwards. His ego is so big that he never accounts for this kind of thing happening, and he acts like a child in response. In fact, in the same image where we find out what Dr. Eggman's IQ is, of 300, we find out that his weak point is that he acts like a child regardless of his IQ. Eggman is a short-tempered, egotistical genius. Now let's talk about the two-tailed fox, Tails. First things first, let's talk about a couple things that Tails has created, and honestly, it's not as long as a list as Dr. Eggman's is, but it's still very impressive nonetheless. Creating several different modes of transportation like the Tornado series, and also they're good for combat as well. Then you also have the Miles Electric, which can help translate the different languages of species. Then you have my personal favorite, creating a fake Chaos Emerald, which has the same wavelengths and properties as a real one. Then of course there are some off-screen things that Tails has built as well, and you know what, I'm gonna let him tell you a bit about those.
I've built a TV out of paper clips.
Yeah.
And reprogrammed a supercomputer using dishwashing detergent and a toothpick.
I know.
Yeah, that's some pretty impressive stuff, Tails. I'm gonna give it to you. Now, the reason why Tails' list isn't as long as Eggman's list of creations is because Tails has no need to create an army of robots. Eggman creates all of this so he can defeat Sonic and his friends. Sonic already has an army of individuals that can help him out, and that army includes Tails. Tails would have no need to create a bunch of robots to fight against Eggman. It just wouldn't make sense. I figured I'd say that because I want to set the record straight. This was never a competition of who can build the most stuff. It's a competition of smartness and what you can build. Just because Tails doesn't build any of the stuff that Eggman has built doesn't mean that he can't, and vice versa. Having said that, I think the most important thing to note about Tails here is that he lacks the ability to read a room at times. Like, for example, Eggman easily tricked him into revealing that this was a fake Chaos Emerald that Sonic was holding in Sonic Adventure 2 storyline. If I remember correctly, it doesn't happen that often or really at all that Tails makes mistakes like these, but it still is worth noting. Anyway, like I said before about Eggman's mind and how he's always and constantly thinking about things, Tails is really the same way. He's always thinking about the world in front of him and just how to navigate through it and learn from the history of it. He can also read text from ancient languages, unlike anyone else before him. The reason why I basically did all of that setup to get to our answer is because I want you to understand that this result is not as easy and cut and dry as you think it is. It's not going to come from just someone telling you that one person is smarter than the other. You really have to break everything down to understand the smartness of each of these characters. But having said all of that, I think I'm going to stick with my original answer of what I said in my previous video. I think that Tails is smarter than Dr. Eggman, but of course there's an asterisk next to it. This time I'm going to explain why so you can understand where I'm coming from. So, dating back to 2005 in the official game manual for Sonic Heroes, it says that Tails has the same level of talent as Dr. Eggman. With that in mind, I think it's very fair to assume if one can do something, the other can do it as well. So this is no longer a battle of smartness, but also of competency and being able to properly assess and read the situation. Like I said, Tails does have a history of being tricked, bamboozled, led astray, all that and above. But Eggman, it happens to him far more often. Like I said before, Eggman basically blinds himself in every single endgame situation. Whenever Eggman is just about to win, he always overestimates and assumes that the victory is already in his hands, as opposed to basically finishing the job. Eggman is often so blinded by his ego that he can't properly assess the situation. One of my favorite examples is when it came to Dark Gaia. When he unleashed Dark Gaia and it was about to fight against Light Gaia and Sonic, Eggman didn't have a plan for that. He just thought he could command Dark Gaia instantaneously, as if he would listen to him just because he awakened him. And the exact same thing happened to Chaos, and the same thing basically happened in Sonic Frontiers. And even in the encounters in which Tails and Eggman had to face off against each other one-on-one, Tails seems to always come out on top. Admittedly, it's not a battle that often happens without Sonic being there or Knuckles, but it happens enough, and in every time, Tails seemed to win. And sure, you could just say that Tails had, he was stronger than Eggman in these situations, and that could be just a point in Tails' favor for just being stronger than Eggman. But I think there's more to it than that, because Tails has to intuitively think about how to beat Eggman and outsmart him in every movement he makes. Now that doesn't mean that I'm saying that every person who beats Eggman is all of a sudden smarter than them. No. What I'm getting at here is that Tails already is at the same level of talent and smartness as Eggman, but in every encounter the two of them have, he always finds a way to outwit him as well. Regardless of your opinion on this discussion in the first place, I think you have to agree, it's going to be a close one regardless, and it really just comes down to really one thing. And really, if Eggman wasn't so blinded by his own ego, I would probably give him the win in this comparison. But what do you guys think? Who do you think is smarter, Tails or Eggman? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to see what you guys have to say. Also, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. It also wouldn't hurt to turn on the post notifications bell so you never miss a video from me. You guys do not want to miss what I have to say. But anyway, with all that said and done, this is SONICSTA signing out. Have a super blessed day, y'all.
Why are you playing that trash?